You guys give us an example of how you guys prepared for the admissions process. What steps did you take to prepare for like the first coding challenge and the second coding challenge and then the final coding challenge?
I can answer that first. Like I said, I got into programming my senior year in college. I did mostly MATLAB and R, things that are very languages that are made for people that are not coders. They're made for scientists. So it's a very different syntax. It's very prettified for people that's not their main thing. And you know, as a project manager, most of the stuff that I did was basic CSS changes, deployments, crazy gits, commands. So yeah, honestly, I felt like I was one of the coming in. I had, you know, coworker, what would you call them, cohort mates that had already been freelancing, already had CS degrees, so I was definitely on the lower end. It was great. I need to teach myself Ruby before I even finished the application. So it was a lot of just literally doing that 9 to 5 for, I would say, 3 weeks. And then passing the first coding challenge, doing that again, doing the second one. And then in between that and actually starting the cohort, I actually had to ask Kush to let me into an earlier cohort. So I had less time to study than most people. It's a joke now. Didn't finish the Hardle tutorial, but I tried. So a lot of their materials that they give you are super helpful. So I would say definitely go over them. I would try to at least finish some basic static page. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's definitely like what I was doing as well. I think that for me, it was the prep work they gave out. Like I remember they had like this repository or something of these are the questions you're gonna get. Yeah, it's really helpful. Like they give you that for a reason. It's similar to what you're gonna get. So I'd recommend like knowing those like very well. Also, I think that like just getting comfortable, like just programming in like a certain language, like it's gonna be Ruby. So like even if you know another language, just get used to that syntax because that can actually throw you off a bit. Also, I feel like it's sounding a little bit intimidating. Like everyone has like a math background or CS background. Like, I felt like that helped in the beginning of the program, and then everyone was pretty much on like the same level by a couple weeks in, because it's very different, I think, to like be like a developer than it is to be a CS major or a math major or anything else. It's like a whole other beast. So I just wanted to add that as well.
That's a great answer. Anyone else?
I was really convinced that I was going to do poorly in spite of my, you know, sciencey background and knowing, you know, R and Python. I worked really hard. I did the Hardle tutorial twice. So I went through it and then I went back through it. As I was building, I built my personal website. Not a great, I promise, it was not a great accomplishment at the time. At the time, I was very proud. I was thoroughly unconvinced that 12 weeks was going to turn me into a software engineer. I worked really hard. All of the Pine book, I think, is maybe still on there. Yeah, and the Hardle tutorial. I did, let's see here, several coding challenge sites, CoderByte, Code Wars, and then there's Project Euler. So if you guys are familiar with any of those, I would actually highly recommend those as you're like learning Ruby or learning how to code and preparing for the coding challenges that are part of the application process. I think that's the best way to prepare for that stuff is to code, and especially CoderByte I think is really good because they have the beginning coding challenges, and I found those incredibly helpful, as well as, you know, like other online tutorials, Ruby centric or Python centric.
Cool.
Since I'm the last one, the way I prepared for, well, even before I knew I was going to go to boot camp, just as intro to programming and coding, I pretty much scoured the, at the time, Code Academy website. They didn't have the same tracks that you probably get right now, and it wasn't that in depth. But what I got was just, like how to do everything in PHP, which I don't use at all, but like JavaScript, Ruby, Python, just getting all the basics down. Definitely one of the things that will really throw you off during the admissions process is having someone watch you as you code. I think it's just really weird at the time before you jump into pair programming, but to someone like critique you as you're coding and like to be on this time limit, it really helps if you're prepared beforehand, or else like if you're not ready, you might stumble, and the more you stumble and you're under pressure, like it's really hard to pick yourself back up. So really prepare, like all those coding websites that Maggie mentioned, and just going through those challenges to make sure that you don't stumble on the spot.
I have another one. Time yourself. Especially, that's right. I always tell people to do this. Time yourself, especially when you don't know what you're doing, so that especially when you're solving a problem you haven't solved before. Time yourself. And I know that sounds terrifying, but just the idea of a timer going, that's very similar to somebody to like an interview or somebody watching you code. You'll also get comfortable with how long it takes you to figure things out. I'll bet you, I'd be willing to bet everyone here a burrito that it doesn't take as long as you think it takes for you to figure something out. So that amount of confidence is really helpful.
What kind of burrito we're from? I'm just kidding. We don't have to go into mission taquerias, but all right. So you guys got in, woo, super excited. What was something that you didn't expect